So heading into this movie, I'd have to say that I was cautiously optimistic about it. On one hand, it's a superhero movie, and most of those tend to be mediocre or crappy. On the other hand, though, most of the cast looked really good, and it's a good director. Robert Pattinson's kind of been typecast, at least in some people's opinion, as Edward from Twilight, which admittedly is not that bad a actor to get to play Batman, as they're both kind of dark and brooding and kind of enigmatic. But he's proven himself to be a versatile actor. He's been in a whole bunch of different types of movies. Admittedly, I haven't seen most of them because a lot of them are dramas or dark comedies or something. But he's played T.E. Lawrence. He was in The Lighthouse as one of the main characters. He was in Tenet. Really, the movie I've seen him in, though, that made me the most optimistic about this was High Life, which is kind of like a very dark sci-fi existentialist dystopian film that I really enjoyed. And this kind of bears some similarities to it. So I thought if he could do that, if he could do Edward, if he could do some of his other roles, you know what? They went with something a bit different for Batman. They maybe picked someone that no one was really expecting. So I'll give them credit. I appreciate it when people take a risk on something. So that's good. The rest of the cast is also pretty good. Well, I generally don't like it when they change the ethnic background of a character. Uh, Jeffrey Wright was a really inspired choice to play Gordon. There is a lot of similarities in terms of personality or just the how he plays Gordon to how he plays Felix Leiter in the new Bond movies. You have the kind of tired, somewhat cynical uh, public servant who's trying to deal with a lot of nonsense, but at the same time is a decent man deep down. And I think he played the role pretty much perfectly between the ideal. He balanced the idealism with the kind of cynicism, with the friendship with Batman, with him trying to do his duty. Something I always like is when there's kind of a bromance or a buddy cop thing, and him and Robert Pattinson just have really good chemistry together. And it's kind of a highlight of the movie, any scene where they're teaming up and there's the two of them acting on screen together. Paul Dano, which I can't recall ever seeing him in anything, but I really enjoyed his portrayal of the Riddler. I think he did a really good job. Zoe Kravitz as Selena Kyle was like meh. She was probably the worst casting. John Turturro did a good job as Carmine Falcone. Colin Farrell as the Penguin, I thought was kind of an inspired choice. He managed to balance the sleaziness, the humor, and the menace well together. And then Andy Serkis as Alfred wasn't in the movie a ton, but you know, it was he did a good job. Now, the director was another point in this film's favor because he directed two movies I really love: Dawn of the Planet of the Apes and War for the Planet of the Apes. And I just kind of feel the style he brought to those films, kind of the themes he brought to those films, is very well suited for a Batman movie. I'm not really sure how to describe it exactly, but it's a good balance of kind of action and attempting to kind of portray more human emotions, or I guess ape emotions in this case. Just the general cinematography I thought was also good. So I was like, it's a Batman movie. I'm tired of the reboots, but you got a good cast together. Some might say an inspired cast, and you have a competent director. So maybe it's going to be a good movie. So the main villain of this movie, and we're going to get into spoilers now, is the Riddler. And this portrayal of the Riddler, this film really tries to go for realism to the point that there's almost no sci-fi elements in this film anymore. I'd say just about anything Batman uses, with maybe the exception of his grapple gun, is something you could pretty easily use in real life. He doesn't have like a formal wings anymore. He has like a wingsuit that's built into the bat suit. It leads to a rather funny scene where he screws it up and crashes and lands, which I thought was pretty amusing, but he really doesn't have that many gadgets. Probably the most sci-fi-ish thing is that his armor is kind of absurdly resistant to gunfire, and people will shoot him with like assault rifles and bolt action rifles and shotguns, and it won't really do much to him. Which I feel, even if it is super advanced armor that bullets can't go through, he should be dying from internal damage from just getting hit so many times. But really, there's a lot fewer sci-fi elements than you had in the Nolan movies. Certainly less so than in the Tim Burton movies or the Joel Schumacher movies. So that's kind of good. So the Riddler, they decided, I think, the good decision. They made him very similar to the Zodiac Killer, with just kind of the way he tries to create a sense of terror, to try to control public opinion, to be mysterious. He leaves cryptograms at every scene of the crime. He tries to lead the guys on a wild goose chase. He's always 3 steps ahead. Like I said, he feels like what a real life supervillain would be, like a Ted Kaczynski, or however you pronounce his name, or a Zodiac Killer or a Charles Manson. He's the kind of guy I could see actually doing it. He has, I don't know if it's a TikTok or a YouTube channel or like a poll channel or something, but as part of his stuff, he broadcasts on a live stream, sometimes him killing people, sometimes him revealing parts of his plan or his motivations or something. I think that he did a good job making the character legitimately creepy and scary. A lot of the filming, the cinematography involving the Riddler reminds me of kind of some creepypasta stuff, or some kind of like Web Slenderman type things, which I really dig and I thought was a good idea. And I'd say overall, the Batman movie that this is the most similar to would maybe be Tim Burton's original Batman movie. They're trying to really hard to make it gritty and realistic and very dark. But also, there is kind of that surreal, dreamlike quality to it, as pretty much everything takes place at night. Pretty much everything is from kind of Batman's perspective. Robert Pattinson is barely in it as Bruce Wayne at all. He only shows up in a couple scenes as it. Someone even says, "This is your real face. You are Batman." Bruce Wayne is not a dual identity. It's kind of a parasite that's managed to survive off of the whole Batman identity. And Batman like doesn't really care about his company falling apart. He doesn't care about his interpersonal relationships. He has a bad relationship with Alfred, which I actually think is pretty interesting because I haven't really seen that before. But he's just kind of completely lost his mind. And I think Robert Pattinson does a really good job of portraying it. There's aspects of different Batmans to this, but he portrays Batman as being this really awkward, kind of legitimately creepy and disturbing figure who, I don't know if he has PTSD or autism or whatever, but the scenes he's in, he just tends to stand there and stare at people. And you have this guy with this bat suit who's just kind of like awkwardly there, and it freaks people out. And I thought it was kind of an interesting portrayal. Once again, I'm going to give this movie credit for doing something a little bit different, for not trying to just copy Nolan's Batman, for not trying to just copy Ben Affleck's Batman, but to go in a different direction. And this Batman's a lot more of a detective. They kind of returned it to the detective thing, where a lot of it is him trying to figure stuff out, doing investigation, roughing up suspects, that kind of thing, trying to kind of unravel the plot. Which, once again, I'm going to give this film credit for doing something different. I like all the different types of Batman. I like it when it's more of an action movie. I like when it's more kind of an epic, like what Nolan was going for. And I kind of like it when it's kind of a gritty film noir type detective thing. So once again, they get all the credit in the world for trying something a bit different. I think it largely worked out. It's also his relationship to the police is a bit more like kind of the Adam West thing, where they aren't actively out to get him, and he has a well-established relationship with Gordon, and they go and solve crimes together, and it's kind of a buddy cop film, which once again is something that I really like. So overall, like, we'll get a bit more into the plot, but I think they did a really good job with this movie. I only have two main criticisms. One, the whole rat plot I found a little hard to follow, and it didn't make a lot of sense to me, and I think it could have been explained better. Two, the movie's just too long at 3 hours. I think they could easily have cut 20 minutes to half an hour of the movie, maybe one of the twists and turns or a subplot or something, and that would have sped it up. Overall, I'd give this movie probably an 8 out of 10. I give it an 8.5 out of 10 if they fix the runtime and maybe simplified some of it a bit. But that being said, maybe let's kind of go into the plot. So Bruce Wayne has been fighting the crime as Batman for about 2 years now. And he's just kind of descended into madness. Like I said, he's barely ever Bruce Wayne. He doesn't care about his company. He doesn't care about anything else. He just spends all his time as Batman, roaming the streets of Gotham, beating up criminals. I'm not really sure if he has PTSD or what it is, but he's just really fucked up. And this movie portrays him as just being completely fucked. And Alfred frequently points this out. So it's kind of an interesting take. It's not even that he's torn between two lives anymore. He's just Batman, and it's completely and totally consumed him. Now, at the beginning of the movie, the Riddler kills the mayor of Gotham and just embarks on a killing spree. And the theme throughout the movie is that the entire Gotham establishment is just run by lies. They're all corrupt and kind of evil. And the Riddler views himself as he kind of took Batman as his model and his hero, and he's trying to do what he thinks Batman's trying to do. He's trying to purge the city. He's trying to bring about renewal. He's trying to get rid of all the filth and scum that are running it. And frankly, most of the people he kills kind of have it coming. The mayor's corrupt. The police commissioner is corrupt. The DA is corrupt. They're all going to this club where they probably have underage prostitutes and stuff. They're all taking massive bribes. They're all killing people who get in their way or are going to reveal the truth. So the Riddler, I think, is at least somewhat a sympathetic villain, and his background makes sense and why he's doing what he does makes sense. So if I could just go into straight out spoilers. So the central plot of this movie is 20 years before the film started, Bruce Wayne's father, Thomas Wayne, donated $1 billion to start the Gotham Renewal Fund, the goal of which was to start revitalizing the city through public works projects, hiring people, providing social services, that kind of thing. Shortly after that, he started his run for the mayor of Gotham, and a reporter dug up information that his wife, Martha Wayne's background was really kind of tragic. There was a murder-suicide with her parents. She spent years in mental institutions. And the reporter was going to drop all this stuff and basically destroy his campaign and just humiliate him and his wife. So he goes to Carmine Falcone, who he had saved previously by operating on him when he had a gunshot wound. And he just tells him, look, could you rough this reporter up? Could you scare him? Could you just deal with him? And Carmine winds up killing him, and Thomas Wayne naively didn't think that that was going to happen, and he was going to go to the police and turn himself in and confess to everything. So Carmine went out and killed Thomas Wayne, and that left Bruce Wayne as an orphan. And his father having kind of this dark past is something I haven't really seen in many Batman adaptations. Maybe you saw a little bit of that in Joker, but it was kind of a cool thing, and so Pattinson has to kind of go through the whole realizing his father wasn't perfect, that a lot of what he was kind of fighting for was based on this ideal that was never really the case. And I think it's pretty interesting, and I think it was a kind of a good twist. And then you get into this thing where, so Thomas Wayne died, and the renewal fund immediately got swallowed up by the mayor and Carmine and the police department, and they're using this as a slush fund and to pay out bribes and stuff. And a couple years before the start of the movie, Carmine decides to turn rat, and he provides a bunch of information about his rivals who get arrested. So the mayor gets to do a big drug bust, the chief of police gets to do a big drug bust, but Falcone has leverage over them, so he's basically running the city at this point. And the Riddler grew up in an orphanage that was run by the Renewal Fund, or sponsored by the Renewal Fund, and because all the money got stolen, he lived an immensely crappy childhood. And he's out to get revenge because he just can't take the lies anymore. So like I said, he is a sympathetic villain. It detracts in no way for how much of a psycho he is, but he goes through and he kills the various people. He then has like this plan where he blows up cars to destroy the seawall and force everybody into the Gotham arena. And then he allows himself to get caught, but he recruits the Riddler Wing Death Squad. And the Riddler Wing Death Squad goes and tries to kill the mayor, and they're going to kill the remaining upper class of Gotham so that it can kind of start over. And they're kind of like this domestic terrorist militia. So I thought that was pretty funny. The Riddler gets interned at Arkham Asylum. Batman goes there to meet him, and it looks like there's a really good scene where it looks like the Riddler's figured out that he's Bruce Wayne, but it's really just the Riddler making fun of Bruce Wayne. He doesn't has no idea who Batman is, and it's kind of funny because the Riddler makes some really good points, and he just says that Bruce Wayne has like his head up his own ass, that he cries like a bitch, that he doesn't acknowledge that anyone else has suffered to the same degree that he has, that even if his parents are dead, he still has billions of dollars of money and he doesn't have to live on the street. The Riddler is very disappointed when his hero just tells him he's a psychopath and that he doesn't support anything he's done. And like I said, he just kind of goes through a existential crisis after that, and he meets the Joker in jail, which I thought was kind of interesting, or the guy who really obviously was the Joker. It would have been interesting if they could have gotten Joaquin Phoenix to do a cameo here, because I could actually kind of see Joaquin being in this universe, but I guess it's inconsistent with stuff that you had happen in Joker, if for no other reason than the timeline. But yeah, so things kind of go along. Batman succeeds in bringing down Falcone. He succeeds in bringing down the Riddler. All that kind of stuff. I think Gordon is probably going to get promoted to commissioner for the next movie. But overall, I just say it was a really good film. Really good, kind of innovative, different take on Batman, doing something a little bit different. I'd recommend this movie. I'd say definitely go see it, or you can wait till it comes out on video. But this is one of the good ones. Pleasantly surprised, but I did have some expectations going in. So that's my review. God bless, and we'll talk to you guys later.